Hey guys, my name is Alana and welcome to Braving Truth Podcast. Today we have a special guest.
Steven.
Wonderful. This is my husband and it's his first time on the pod. So let's see how this is going to go. We're going to talk about basically how we met, what our life was like when we were dating, when we got engaged, and when we got married, and kind of like where we are today, but just little teasers, little tidbits of stuff. But most importantly, to encourage you in whatever season you may be in your life. So about us, do you want to start or should I start?
You can start. It's your podcast. I'm following your lead today.
Okay. So we met actually 10 years ago. So we've been together for 10 years. We were talking before we actually were official, but we've been together 10 years and we met at work. Steven was actually my boss.
Yep.
He was my boss and I was just a regular employee, and that's how our relationship actually started, was through work. Do you have a different perspective on that or no?
No, I mean that's definitely where I met you.
Okay.
Depending on who you ask, I initially told my family that I met her at school because I didn't want them to know, be like, oh, you're messing around with your employees.
Mm-hmm.
So my parents at first thought that I met her at college.
I don't know why. Even said that. We're legit driving. He picks me up to go to dinner for the first time at his parents' house, and he goes, "Oh yeah, by the way, I told my parents we met at college." I'm like, bro, what?
That's just the first thing that came into my mind. I don't know.
I'm like, you already set me up. This is not even not even 3 months. We're just in this new, and I was like, yo, why do you do that? But whatever.
I had to test you to make sure you're a ride or die.
No. Listen, you gotta tell the truth. You cannot be telling tales out here. So we dated for 4 years?
Yeah.
4 years.
About 4 years, yeah.
We broke up a few times.
On and off 4 years.
Yeah. And in that whole time of dating, I knew Steven was the one because of a dream that I had, and it was really crazy. But I never told him the dream that I had about us getting married and being married, because I felt like that was God's confirmation to me to hold on, even when we broke up and got back together and broke up and got back together. That is what I held on to personally, to keep going until we got engaged, until we got married, until we're here now. And that's something that I always will say, God definitely gave me confirmation that Steven was the one. Even though at times it was hard or very difficult to be together, or very hard when we broke up and having to deal with all those different emotions. But yeah, that's what I would say. What would you say about that? About the dating life?
About dating? I did a lot of stupid stuff. It was interesting. It was definitely a change for me. Definitely an adjustment for me.
What was?
Dating you.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, you were the first black girl that I was with.
Yeah.
So it was kind of traversing, foreign waters. And it was definitely an adjustment, handling, just the cultural differences between, my parents and yours. And just my family getting used to my choice.
Yeah.
My Greek side as well. It was a little bit of not everybody was always for us at the beginning, but you definitely when you feel in your heart and you hear from God, you have to fight for what is your calling. So I mean, it was tough sometimes. It was rough to to stand up to your family and tell them no, this is who I want to be with. So it was a lot of getting used to, and a lot of transitioning from what I was used to and what my family thought was gonna be. Because before her, I had gotten out of a very long-term relationship, 6 years with a different girl that I thought I was gonna marry. So it was also transitioning to okay, no, that relationship is gone. I have to move on to to my future. So.
Oh, okay. That's good. For me, I don't know. I would say that I would say Steven was my first, I'm gonna use the word official boyfriend, right? Because like you have the stages of what you're talking, you're getting to know someone wants to be friends with benefits, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. Or you have the people that like you just keep talking to and like nothing is changing, but then like you're pretending to date, but they actually never officially asked you out to date. So those were the different seasons that I was in, I would say. But I think one thing that got me was one time, our very first date was at a hibachi restaurant. We went to a hibachi restaurant, and Steve was like, "Would you mind accompanying me on a date?" And I just was busting out laughing because I was like, "Oh my gosh! Like no one has ever actually asked me out on a date. Like okay, you got that." And we had our first date at hibachi. It's around where we live, but they actually changed the ownership, but we still pass it sometimes, and we've been there a few times since then. So for me, I would say like Steven was the first like legit person that like I actually had the patience for, right? Or the time of day for, or to give that extra attention to, where there was just other guys and I was like, all right, like this is cool, like, you know, whatever. But like, I just knew like, it was kind of like a waste of time, or like those type of relationships were just not getting anywhere. And for me, I think, I don't know if I would want to have dated a lot of people or serious relationships prior to, because from your point of view, right, you said you were in a relationship for a long time, right? And once you're with someone for a long time, right, like you have to relearn ways, right? Or you have to kind of remold yourself, right, for the new person. And like, you can't be in your head about, oh, this worked before and this doesn't work now, you know? So I think I'm happy that I actually didn't have like a serious relationship like you, like for like that serious, you know, because you legit thought you were gonna marry her. So for me, I'm thankful that that didn't happen to me. I don't know, I just felt like I need to say that, but whatever. I think too, we dated for a long time, and then we finally got engaged, but I always would tell Steven, like, I don't have time for this, like, I'm not here, you're not gonna like lead me on all this time and not propose to me. Like, I was like not having it. I was like, yeah, like I know what I'm worth, like I know like what's up, you know, like I don't need to sit here and play like in this field with you or date you for a long time or a little time, like, you know, like when you know, as Steven said. So we got engaged at almost at the end of year 4. Or was it year 3 going into 4?
No. It was we started dating 2015.
Yeah.
So it was year 3.
Okay.
And towards the end of year 3, August of.
Yeah, August, I think
2018.
Yeah, I think it was the 21st or the 22nd or 18th. I don't know. Whatever. So yeah, Steven proposed.
Yeah. I proposed. That was it all worked out. But when this girl told me, like, you know, you better get your stuff together, like you better propose to me, I'm not gonna be just one of these girls that's you're gonna keep around, blah blah blah. Yeah. I was like, shoot, like I got my stuff together real quick. I was like, I think it was like a total of like less than a month before like I got the ring and proposing to her, like from that conversation that we had. So I was like, oh, like this girl means some business. And for me, like I'm very much a procrastinator. I get very set in my ways and I get comfortable with things, and I don't like rock the boat and try new things. So it's like I was just like chilling, coasting along, wasn't even thinking about marriage at that point. And she's like, I was like, oh shoot, marriage. Oh, okay. Okay. So then I was like, okay, well, I mean, you know, this is the girl I want to marry. Like I want to spend the rest of my life with. I love her. So I'm like, if she's trying to like say, if you don't marry me quick, I'm about to be out. I'm like, I gotta marry her quick then.
Yes, but quick was, come on, let's be real. It was like year 3, and I was
yeah.
It was like year 3, and Steven is older, right? We should have probably said that from the beginning. Steven is older than me. I am younger than him. He's older by a decent amount, right? So in my head, I'm like, you're older, right? You would think like if the guy's older, like they would have more of their life together, but at the same time, like age is just a number. Like I'm just gonna say that, like age is just a number. Like you can be 18 and have your life together, right? You could be 40 and have your life together, right? Like I think age is just a number, and today's society or like culture, like everyone's like, okay, if this person is this old, they need to have this, and this done. Or if I'm this old, I need to accomplish this, and this. And I used to actually be that way. Like, okay, like, dang, when I had our son, I was like, dang, like I didn't accomplish all these things that I wanted to in my life at that age. But then I realized like time honestly means nothing to God, right? So like why am I trying to jump for certain things when like it's all in his timing, you know? So sometimes it's good that you're a procrastinator now. I don't know about before, but like now that we're married. But for me, I think we just have to be okay with where we're at. And don't get me wrong, if you're dating someone for like a long time, like I'm talking about years, right, and nothing is happening, then yes, I would definitely, if I was a female or if I was a girl in the situation, I would have done what I did with Steven. Like, okay, what is this? Like, what are we doing here? You know?
Right.
So yeah, we got engaged at the beach. Well, we almost went on the sand, but I was like, no, I have heels on, so we did not make it on the sand. It was very cloudy. It was raining. I was not getting out the car, and Steven's just like over it. And then we were walking down a boardwalk, and the sun actually came out right when Steven was proposing.
Because it was raining all that morning.
All day it was raining. Yeah. And he told me we were going out with some friends, and we didn't go out with any friends, obviously, because I always said like if he proposed, when I told him like I would just want it to be us, right? Like I would just want to enjoy that moment of just us two. And then after, like, we can see people or celebrate or whatever the case may be. So it was just us two, and he proposed, and he was talking, and the sun legit came out, and I was just like, yo, like, this is definitely God, bro. Like, as soon as he went on one knee, like, the sun definitely came out. And he asked me to marry him, and it was cool. It was cool. It was different. I was just more shocked that the sun came out, bro. And, like, a week prior, like, I called him on my break or something, and I was like, and I'm like, why is this all this wrestling and stuff? And I'm like, what are you doing? Where are you? He's like, I'm walking the dogs. I'm like, okay. And I believed him. But like a week prior, he was actually down at the boardwalk looking exactly where he wants to propose. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like you really got me on that one. So we got engaged, and then we got married within what? 6 months?
6 months, yeah.
We did it within 6 months. And anyone could do it within 6 months, if you ask me. Right. It's possible. It just matters like what your dream is and what your vision is. I used to always tell myself like this is just one day, and that's it. Like it's one day, but it's like a lifetime, you know. So don't put a lot of thought into one day. But I mean, I did have details, and I had things that I had put into thought. And at the time, like Steven was working full time, but I don't want to say he was making money. Right, and I was working full time, but I wouldn't say I was making money either.
Definitely not.
You know, and like we did it. You know, like we've come so far, and I guess for me, like I say this because like a lot of times we harp on what we have or like how much money we have, right? But if God wants it to happen, and if it's something that God wants, like a way will always be made. Like we got crazy blessed for our wedding. Like blessings came from nowhere. Like there was even blessings the day of, like from your parents, you know, like there was blessings all around, like leading up to our wedding day, you know. And I think, remember you always talk to people about like when it comes to money and stuff about getting married and engaged.
Yeah, but I mean, so right, so I mean, so when it comes to like the wedding, like I mean, it's an important day, right? Don't get me wrong, but I mean, you have to be like down to earth with it. Like everybody wants the fairy tale wedding. Like I get it, but I mean we unfortunately live in a real world. You know, we're not in a book where you know things don't have a price tag attached to them. So I would say you know it's very easy to get carried away, and it's very easy to you know have people kind of like talk you into spending a lot of money for your wedding. You know, everybody's excited. Your family is, oh, we should get that. You should get this. You should like at the end of the day, you know, be frugal, be realistic. If it don't fit the budget, it don't fit the budget. Like have a number, and you guys make peace with that number. You and your future spouse. And like this is the number, and we're gonna stick to it. And no matter what comes up, if it's not in the budget, it's not it's not happening. Because you can get into like a cycle, and then the next thing you know, you spent like $40,000 on one wedding, one day. And you know you could have bought a house. You could have put a down payment on a house. True. So that's that's one thing I would say is, but also, like so. I mean, you can get married on any budget. Like you can have a small intimate wedding. You can invite a lot of people. I mean, ours was not big, but it wasn't small.
Yeah, it was
like medium size. It was like 150 people.
medium. Yeah, 150.
It was like 150 people.
150 people.
But
that's
like
medium to him.
But like I mean, right. So you have to just be smart with how you do it. Like we were smart as far as we got married in the off season. Everyone wants to get married in the summertime, but you're gonna get a lot less for your money in the summertime because it's busy season. So all the prices are jacked up.
But we also picked winter because our dating
Yes.
anniversary is January 23rd. And we were like, okay, what is another month that has the number 23? And it happened to be February 23rd. So we're like, oh, there's a number 23. I guess we're getting married February 23rd.
Right, because January 23rd wasn't it was on a weekday.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, what's the next month that has a 23 on the weekend? And it just so happened to be the next month, February.
Yeah.
So we did
And
it
when
that
we went
way.
to the venue, the day was actually available too. So we're like, yeah, this is it. Like, this is where we're supposed to get married.
So we didn't necessarily pick the winter because if it's cheap, but
exactly.
but God just worked it out. God just worked it out that way.
It's true.
And it was like, yeah, because it was way affordable. Like the stuff that we got for our wedding, like in the summertime would have probably cost you double,
triple. But
yeah. People were so surprised how little we paid for our wedding, how nice it was, open bar, all that. You know, there was really nothing that I was like, oh, I wish, this wasn't, nothing that I saw on the wedding that was like, oh, okay, like, you could tell, like, they cheaped out on something. Like, it was nothing like that was on the wedding, in our wedding. Everything was great, except for the DJ couldn't pronounce my name right, but that's a different story.
Oh my gosh. Yes, that's true.
But yeah, so don't let money, like, stop you from doing that. If you feel like that's that's your person, that's the person that God has made for you and has set forth for you to spend your life with, then He'll definitely make a way for you to be married. And I mean, if it's the courthouse, it's the courthouse. At first, like if it means like maybe you have to save up for a ceremony if you want to do that. Maybe you go to the courthouse first and then save up for like a year and then do a ceremony. People do that. It's 2025, so. People do whatever they want to do these days. They have all these these unique ways, and everything is kind of like tradition's kind of thrown out the window. So
sadly.
So I mean, sadly, and
certain things should still have tradition. There's some things like that don't have traditions. I'm like, this should be still a tradition.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, don't feel like you have to do it like the same way that other people have done it. Like,
just be wise, right?
Yeah,
like, be wise and just think about like Steven said, what do I get the most for my buck? That doesn't look cheap, right? That doesn't look not good, right? But it all works out, because when you get married, you have to think about it like a wedding costs money, and I just kept telling myself it's one day. It's legit. One day, Alana. That's what I would tell myself.
Yeah.
But I also think like a lot of times people feel like the person they're with they should marry and they actually shouldn't be with that person. And I think for Steven and I, a few reasons that we broke up was because like it was one of those like Steven grew up in a Christian household and background, and he knew the faith and stuff, but there would be a lot of times where like I'd be like, oh, come to church with me, and be like, no, and I'm like, what? Or I'll be like, oh, are you gonna come to church tomorrow? He'd be like, yeah, and then like I'm there saving him a seat and he's not there. Right, he did work overnight shifts too, and there was also a time where I'm like, all right, like if that person wants to be with you, like they'll make a way and they'll do what they need to do to show that they want to be with you and that they want to be in your life and in your world and do the things that you enjoy, but also like your beliefs as well, like I would say like don't compromise that. Like don't compromise like who you are, like don't put like a cover over what you believe and who you truly are. Like be you, right? Because at the end of the day, like if you get engaged, if you get married, the person's going to see the real you eventually, right? Like you can only keep up with a facade for so long. So like let that person see who you are, and if they like you, they like you, and if they don't, like they're lost, but I also feel like confidence is a big thing. A lot of times we try to find our worth in our significant other because we want them to feel like our voids and stuff, but at the end of the day, like they're never gonna give us the worth we want to feel. Like it truly just comes from God, right? And having a really solid relationship with Him, and believing like what He does is who He is, and knowing that no person can compare or come as close to what God can do for you. And that's big, right? Like, it's hard already to be in relationships in this world, right? Because guys usually only want one thing, right? And girls usually give into that. But like, when you have your belief and you know your stand and who you are, like, all those temptations will be so easy to deal with and overcome because you know what your solid foundation is in. So that's definitely something I would tell people, like, don't settle, like, don't compromise. Like, I always say to people, like, just tell them who you're on the first month or so. And people are like, what? I'm like, I mean, that's what I would do. But like, this is who I am. Like, take it or leave it, you know?
Yeah.
Versus, because you can't keep up with all of that for so long. And then you can't even enjoy the relationship because you're like, dang, what did I say last time? What did I need to remember? What did I do? What did I not do? You know? And you just start losing all of that instead of enjoying the relationship that has potential to marriage, you know? But I think marriage is the best thing. Marriage is hard, right? God likes covenant, right? And that's what we all should be after and desiring. And I feel like there is someone out there for everyone. I know that is a loaded statement, but a lot of times, like, we expect that person to come find us. We expect us just to sit there and look pretty and the person's gonna come. But like, a lot of times, like, both parties have to do work to make something work, right? Because even when that person comes after they found you, like, you both have to do work to maintain the relationship and then maintain the marriage and to keep going, you know? You have to pursue each other. It's like, that's just what it is, you know? And as time goes on, like, the pursuit is more work, you know, or some seasons it's less work, you know? But when you love someone, you'll do what it takes to get to where you know God wants you guys to be and what example you should be for the people around you. But I mean, I think that is really it. But we do have some questions that we're going to ask each other. Do you want to go first or should I go first?
Doesn't matter.
Or you want
Are we going to switch off? Or...
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so I guess I'll go first.
Okay.
Question number 1.
Okay.
What is something about marriage that is harder than you thought and something that's easier than you thought?
Something about marriage that I thought harder.
That you thought would be harder.
Oh, that I thought would be harder.
And then something that you thought that would be easier.
Okay. Harder? I thought it would be harder living with you. No, that's weird, but like a lot of people, right? They say and they suggest, and anyone that is your mentor and knows good will tell you, like, you should live with that person before you get married. Because a lot of times they say when you live with the person before you get married, like, you tend to see things that you don't want to see, and then that's why sometimes people run from that person because they don't like what they see. So I thought that was, like, always in my mind, and I always thought it would be harder to live with you. But I felt like it's actually easier than harder.
Okay. And then what's easier than you thought it would be?
What's easier than I thought?
Like something that you thought would... Sorry, no, you did something that you thought was hard. Okay. Well, okay, what was something that you thought was easy but was actually hard?
Oh, something that is easy but is hard.
Yeah, you thought would be easy.
Yeah. I would say I thought my consideration for you would be easier. And, like...
Okay.
My awareness of that you exist and that you're in the same space, right? Because I'm all, like, about people and for people, and giving people my attention, but I didn't realize, like, how hard it is to be intentional about that time and giving the attention that you need, or, like, initiating it or pursuing it, I would say. Okay. My first question is, what made you want to marry me?
What made me want to marry you?
Yes.
You want the appropriate answer or the inappropriate answer?
Yes, the appropriate answer.
Okay.
I can't.
Appropriate answer. No, well, the first thing that really drew me to you is that you're a good listener, and I'm a good talk. I like to talk.
Yeah.
So.
I think you like to talk more than I do.
I do actually do like.
More and more, I'm like, I thought I can talk, but I think you really actually
people
can
that
talk.
know me, I can talk. I don't come off at first, but yeah, I can actually really talk.
Yeah.
So like when I'm comfortable with you, so yeah, I mean, you're just a good listener. It was easy to talk to you, and so that's what initially drew me to you. why I wanted to marry you is because you, I don't want to say you checked off the boxes, because I really didn't have any boxes to check. People are like, oh, you check off all the boxes. Like, no, I honestly didn't know.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in lists, by the way.
Yeah. Forget that. Next.
But what I saw was someone who is responsible, someone who's independent, someone who's strong, and I was like, you know what? Like, I need a strong person in my life, because I'm a very, very relaxed, very laid back person.
Yes.
And honestly, it's like we're opposites in almost every sense of the word. But I mean, you know, God designs us to be opposites. Like He, you know, your spouse is meant to be an opposite to you.
Sure.
So when I saw that, I was like, okay, you know what? Like, we shouldn't work. Like, according to the world, like, we should not work together. Like, but it just works. So I was like, you know what? Like, I mean, God is just telling me that, you know, this is you know, this is your wife, because it doesn't make sense, like, in the worldly sense. Like, things that don't make sense in the worldly sense is because it's set forth by God. Like, if it makes sense in the world, then it's like, okay, maybe, you know what I mean? Like, it's, but if something like shouldn't work on paper, shouldn't work according to like the rules of the world and how the world views things, then it's usually God that's working in that situation. So I was like, you know what, we really shouldn't be, there's really no reason why we should be together. Like, we have nothing in common, just about, you know, we don't share any of the same interests really. So I was like, you know, but somehow we still work.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what, let's get married.
Well, what the other person lacks, what one person lacks, the other person has.
Right. Yeah.
So then it's like
we're
the
meant
missing.
to complement each other.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Your turn.
Okay. Second question. What is the? This is more of like a general question, not just for me, but what is the top thing in your opinion that ladies should look for in a husband? Like the top thing. If there was a one thing, I know it's hard. The
like
top
one?
Thing. In your opinion, so it's not the definite answer.
Oh, okay.
But in your opinion,
okay,
what would you say?
I would say his relationship with God.
That's a good one.
Because Ephesians 5:22 says, "Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church." And for me, like how does he worship? Is he praying? Like, is he in his Bible? You know, and a lot of those things some men don't do right away, right? Like, you didn't do that right away. But do you see the potential, right? Or do you see certain signs and certain things that shows you like, okay, that person can get there, and not overnight, right? Like, and just knowing like you can't change him, and like you're the one that picked him, even if you knew him or you didn't know him. But I would say like his love for the Lord and how he treats people and the relationships that he has, and how he is with his mom, I would say. Yeah, so I would say it's all like the same thing, like how he is with relationships, but basically how his pursuit with God, I would say for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would say as far as like marriage, I you know, definitely don't get married to someone who's not a believer.
Yeah.
That's gonna be, you know, you're asking for a really rough road when you do that. But I mean, as far as dating, I mean, if you're just looking to, you know, you get to know somebody and, you know, just date. I would say before you date them though, you have to make sure that they're open to the gospel first.
Yeah.
Like, if they're saying like, I would never step foot in a church and blah blah blah, and be like, okay, like, you know, now's not the time for us to, you know, to be in a relationship right now.
Now's not the time.
But if they're open to the gospel, then I mean, bring them to church. You know, but I would say like I would not marry that person until they've accepted Jesus as their Lord and Savior in their heart. And another reason is, you know, for that's a good answer. Their walk with God and their relationship with God is because, you know, if that's right, there could be a million things wrong with them, and God will fix each and every one of those things. Amen. If they have a relationship with God. So
that's true.
I mean, if they have a relationship with God and they you know they're striving to get closer to God, then you know that, you know, all those little details and issues that you wish were one way but aren't, you know, God's gonna sort them out. So yeah, good answer.
But not in our timing. when God thinks it's best.
Correct. It's not like, you know, the next day you wake up as husband and wife after getting married and God just worked on your spouse miraculously and, you know, they're a completely different person.
Possible, but it takes time.
It takes time. It takes time.
What is your favorite memory of us?
Favorite memory of us? Whew. Okay, I have a couple.
One.
Okay, one. Sorry.
One.
One. Okay, I would say, one.
Yeah.
Just one? Dang. Okay. I don't know why it just popped in my head.
Okay.
But I would say, one though. I mean, multiple trips to New York. I liked our trips to New York.
Oh, okay.
That we would take. But my number one, I guess, would be when you surprised me for my birthday and took me to see Jersey Boys on Broadway.
Yeah.
Because I was so shocked. I'm like, wow. Like, I know she wasn't really, like, at that point, like, she got more into Broadway being with me. But was that your first Broadway show? I don't know if that was.
No, The Lion King was, remember?
Oh, that was before we went to Jersey Boys? Okay. Oh, I was just surprised because I was like, you know, this woman probably doesn't know what Jersey Boys is, and she took me there, and so I would say that because it was it was always like an adventure, you know, taking the train into the city, walking in the cold,
not getting lost,
not getting lost,
not missing the train home,
Yeah, it was we have a couple of stories with us in New York.
But not right now.
We're not gonna talk about that time where we did miss the train.
Oh my
But
gosh.
that would be one of my favorites. Yeah.
It's your turn.
My turn. Okay. How has your perception of marriage changed after being married to me for almost 6 years?
6 years. Perception of marriage changed?
So kind of like what you thought it was beforehand and kind of what you kind of realize what it actually is. So what you thought about it before marriage, like what you thought marriage would be, and then now actually being in it for 6 years, what do you actually think it is?
I thought it was going to be easy.
I actually thought it was going to be easy too.
I thought it was going to be easy, and I thought like things would naturally just happen and naturally just work. But in reality, it's all about like putting in the work for it to be how you want your marriage to be with your spouse. Like initiating stuff, also like the quality time thing, like spending time with that person, right? Because when you're dating someone, of course you want to go out, you want to date, you want to have a good time, you want to go out to eat, right? But then when you get married, like kind of like the honeymoon phase, that's what I used to call it when we were dating, it just dies because now you're living with that person and you see that person. And I think a lot of people don't realize like you still have to pursue that person even when you're married and have quality time and like intentional quality time, right? Like what quality time may be to him is different than what it is for me, right? So also accepting like, okay, this is what you call quality time? Okay, fine. And this is what I call quality time. And being selfless to accept both parties' version of quality time. But I would definitely say, I thought it would just be easier. I thought like I knew it would be work, but I didn't think it would be like a lot of work. You know, like I knew it would be work, but like it's an everyday work. Like you have to water the seed every single day.
Yeah, I mean, so similar. Very similar to that is like that's what I thought it would be. I thought it would be like a walk in the park. I would come home. Alana's gonna have a big smile on her face with dinner on a plate. And it would just be like we're just happy all the time, and why wouldn't you be happy because you're married to the person that you love, right?
Yeah.
But I soon found out that's not the case because we're both people.
Yeah.
You know, we both have bad days. We both get tired. We both get frustrated. And you know, you kind of have to deal with that. You know, you come home I would come home in a good mood sometimes, and she had a really bad day at work, and she's frustrated. And I'm like, why are you acting like that? You know, and I'm like, I thought we were gonna have like a good time tonight, and she's like, no, I just want to go to sleep. And it's like, you know, so it's an adjustment. You kind of have to realize that you know, you're married to an actual person who has wants, desires, and needs. So it's not all just about you anymore.
Yeah.
So there's definitely gonna be some conflict there and some strife, and you gotta work through those things. But,
Okay, this one is What advice would you give to anyone wanting to be in a relationship but they're not in one yet?
Oof. I have so much advice, but
Listen, this
okay.
is your first time on the pod.
I know I could talk a lot though.
No,
you shouldn't have had me on here if you weren't prepared. But no. So like, is it like a bit more specific, like advice in regards to like picking somebody, or like in in regards to like, do you have a little bit more specific or no? Okay, what's the question again? Exactly. Let me try and make it a little bit more specific.
But what advice would you give to anyone wanting to be in a relationship that may not be yet?
Okay. What I would say is, don't force it. Don't rush it.
That's good.
Take care of yourself first.
That's a good one.
Don't neglect your singleness in the time that you have it, because at one point you're gonna wish that you had it back. Not saying like you're gonna wish that you were never married to somebody or whatever, but like you're gonna miss all the free time that you had. You could do whatever you want. You didn't have to worry about anybody else's needs. Being there for your spouse or anything like that. So a lot of freedom. So I would enjoy it, but also use it to work on yourself, and also use it to do things for God's kingdom. I mean, Paul was in the Bible was saying that it's better for him to be single because he has time, for ministry. Where if he had a family, then ministry, his gospel, his missionary work is actually comes second to what God has called him to be when he has a wife. So when you enter in that relationship, when you enter into a marriage, like your mission to spread the gospel comes second to your spouse. So I would take that into consideration too. So in your singleness, like don't get caught up in like, oh, I gotta be out there on a Friday night, Saturday night, gotta be at the club, gotta be there. Like focus on serving God, and he knows the desires of your heart, and he'll make a way. So he'll put that person in your life. So yeah, I would say just focus on yourself and focus on serving God. I have a lot more advice, but that's one of them. I guess maybe we'll save the other advice for later.
Later?
Yeah. If we do like a part 2, if people want. If you want to see a part 2, like and subscribe and comment and let me know. Should she have me back on, or am I banned from the podcast?
Oh, wait. Should Steven come back on the podcast, or is he banned? Do you have your third question or no?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was the third question. I answered. The perception.
Oh, the perception of marriage.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could ask you a fourth question. If you're ready.
No, I'm not. Awesome.
A simple question.
Well, all right. That was definitely all over the place. We went from dating to engaged to marriage to dating to relationships. But there you have it, folks. This is wonderful Steven. He's finally arrived on the podcast. Will he come back? We don't know. But we're grateful that he was here today. So thanks so much for tuning into Brave and Truth Podcast, and I can't wait to see you next time.
If you enjoyed and were encouraged by this episode, please share it with a friend or family member that will be blessed by it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, but most importantly, stick around for more uplifting and brave content. See you next time.